Welcome to Trending in Education. Mike Palmer here. I'm joined by Alvin Crawford. Alvin, welcome to Trending in Ed.
It's my pleasure, Michael. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you. We're in San Diego at the ASU+GSV conference. The women of AI are overlooking our conversation, which is great. Alvin, always when we have someone on the show for the first time, we always like to hear in your own words, your background, your origin story.
Sure.
Can you catch us up on your professional background?
Absolutely. So I have been in the tech space since the early 2000s. Or actually 96 is when I got
Nice.
deep into the
You're
tech
20th,
space.
20th century OG.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And so in that I worked with Digitas, Ogilvy, and Entropy, big interactive agencies. We did Fortune 50 consulting on what to do with the internet.
Yeah.
Because it was the coming age of the internet. And so a lot of corporations were trying to figure out at the C-suite level what to do. So I was really doing work with Kodak, IBM, Express Scripts, and a buddy said, "Hey, I'm starting up this ed tech company. Can you help me?" And there's a company called SchoolNet. So that was one of the bigger.
Early 21st century.
Yeah. We grew it from 0 to 23 million.
Yeah.
Pearson bought it for 230. So it was a
Yeah.
run, but more importantly, we were deep in consulting with districts on data. And the more you look at student data, the more you're clear that there's an adult problem that we have to fix as well. So I've been working in professional development and then actually at Revolution Foods as well. I've worked with a bunch of companies and a bunch of districts in helping around student outcomes.
Yeah. And you have a consultancy.
Yes. Advice K12.
Advice
And
K12.
My 25 years of experience working in and helping companies grow
Yeah.
it has driven me to what I do now.
You know, it's 2025. We got to talk about AI.
Absolutely.
And I'm not talking Allen Iverson.
Right.
Although I've been known to talk Allen Iverson on an occasional show. That's not what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
But trying to understand how change is going to actually come to K12.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of talk about it, but there's not always traction in that last mile actually breaking through, which is why I think consulting, having people who are expert in the space to kind of guide you, you know, your Sherpas to guide you up the hill of enlightenment. But what type of work are you doing now in 2025?
So I want to tell you about my favorite client.
Sure.
World Book. Do you remember
I'm
World
old
Book?
enough to remember we had World Book in my living room. Yeah.
Yes.
And I consulted it regularly around middle school years. Especially.
Absolutely. So what I always think of is World Book was the internet before the internet.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you think of where World Book is today, World Book has evolved from being kind of a library reference. And actually, if you remember back in our day, we used it to explore and discover. It was always this fascinating place to find.
I remember just skimming it.
Yeah.
And like looking for the pictures
That's
and
right.
the charts and the captions were, because we were like information starved.
Yes. And so today, one of the struggles that we're seeing is that adolescent literacy is a big issue. 69% of kids in general are not proficient in reading in 8th grade.
Yeah.
And so World Book really developed a new product called CLASSMATE that helps address adolescent literacy.
I see.
And if you think about adolescent literacy, especially in middle school, the only way to fix it is to get kids to read more.
Yeah.
And so what World Book's CLASSMATE is focused on is helping all teachers be able to actually assign content for kids to read.
That's like relevant because it's a motivational problem, right?
Yeah.
It's like, what's in it for me? Why do I want to do it? Because like, especially when you're first learning to read in this age range too, I heard like multisyllabic decoding, the science of reading stuff is is hard and kids need to kind of get over that hump. But I think even beyond that, there is a motivational problem where like, what's in it for me? Is this platform for me? Is this content for me?
Yeah.
And then there's the promise of personalization. It sounds like World Book's now letting the teacher kind of tailor what gets sent back out. What's going on?
So there are a couple different levels. So think of it this way. To fix adolescent literacy, you have to get kids to read.
Yeah.
And so that means your PE teacher, your math teacher, your arts teacher, they all have to kind of expose kids to informational text.
Yes.
The value that World Book brings is both old school from the standpoint of having rich child written text that really brings kids in to explore.
Yeah.
But then we use AI to basically create science of reading types of assignment. So, for example, a PE teacher could have assigned a little text on tennis,
Yeah.
and then the AI would actually create an assignment that would say, "Hey, compare tennis to your favorite sport,"
Right.
and put that in a Venn
I
diagram.
thought you were going to say compare Arthur Ashe to
Oh, to
Serena
Serena.
Williams.
No, but to have a Venn diagram that compares and contrasts the two sports with some in the middle, some on the left. So the kids are really thinking critically as they're exposed to content. And now, typically, you need to be a literacy teacher
Right.
to actually create an assignment like that.
I see.
But AI allows you to create the assignment, and then classmates build scaffolds in. So there's an AI assistant who is a AI tutor that can actually help you understand what a Venn diagram is,
Right.
and help you think through how to respond.
It's like a chat.
Yeah, chat. Yeah,
Chat bot.
so it's got a chat bot.
Yeah, I've referred to this as Clippy's Revenge.
Yes.
Clippy, when it first came out, for those of you who don't remember,
creepy.
Microsoft wasn't as helpful perhaps as it could be.
Yeah.
But now it's almost, chatbots are becoming the interface that's replacing search boxes.
Yes. And if you think, honestly, if you think about kids today and texting and all of those things, this is native to them.
Yeah.
And so the ability to get help around an assignment, and we added gamification as well. So that kids are encouraged actually to ask other teachers to send more content.
And then is there some personalization of the content to like their grade level or like their competencies?
So all of the content is broken down by standard, by grade level.
Yeah.
So that as you're going through a math or PE course or others, it's actually broken down into the kind of content that you've been looking for, accustomed to.
Yeah.
And then you can search the database. There are over 500,000 articles as well as videos and images.
And interestingly, like one of the problems of the AI age I've talked about on the show a bit is the curation problem.
Yes.
Where there's a lot of, I think it's referred to as like AI slop. I'm putting scare quotes out for those of you who are just listening.
Yes.
But there's a lot of junk in the system.
Absolutely.
And if you go unguided into it, getting back to the Sherpa analogy, you may get bad information. Misinformation is a real problem.
Completely.
So I imagine a company like WorldBook is more that stamp of approval, that kind of curatorial skill.
You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, WorldBook is a trusted source of information.
Yeah.
And we actually use a small language model so that AI is only working within the confines of WorldBook's content.
Yeah.
So you're not going to get bad, or what they call, you're not going to get those errors that you get.
Confabulations.
Yes.
I've heard them called hallucinations.
Hallucinations, yes.
But that's anthropomorphizing, which is okay. Actually, Ethan Malik said it was okay, so we can anthropomorphize if we want.
Yes.
So that's the type of work. So that's interesting in that, WorldBook, to stay around, has to develop some agility, some adaptability.
Yes.
And I imagine as a consultant who's been working in the education edtech space for the last 20 plus years, you too have had to develop some flexibility, adaptability. Any advice for folks, career advice? Aside from, I mean, you're always dressed well. So I think for those who can see us on camera, the pocket square game is there. But do you have any advice for folks who want to maybe chart their career in the world of education?
Yes. Well, so education, especially on the ed tech or entrepreneurial side, is one where you may have a good idea, but you also have to, what I call product market fit. You have to be clear about what problem you're trying to solve. And it probably should have a bit of urgency if you want to make money.
I've heard like nice to have, must have, those kinds of.
It's nicer to be in the must have category. But then helping districts to be clear about what do, what's unique about it, where it fits in the ecosystem of solutions, how they implement it. Because often folks won't buy if they think it's going to be too complex to implement. And then thinking strategically about the value of it and how to distribute it is really important. And I think as an edtech entrepreneur, passion is one thing, but then the practical reality is you need to make sure that there's a fit. And I think WorldBook's done a great job because adolescent literacy is a problem to solve. We've got to solve it. And the science of reading is super clear about what it takes to solve it.
Right.
And what World Book has done is put the bullseye right on solving.
Yeah. And then talking about small language models, the other thing, I was just talking to my wife the other night about the need for everything to be so fast, where like sometimes I think people need to slow down.
Yeah.
Are there any trends you're seeing around just the technology products that are rolling out, the clients you work with? What do you think maybe is underestimated in this space? And then what do you think maybe a little bit overhyped? Like, where do you think the smart money is in terms of K12 product development?
Well, I think that prompt engines are ubiquitous.
Yeah.
And not that valuable.
Right.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I think that any use of AI that helps bring clarity to functions that are harder to do are important.
Yeah.
I think in an age of disinformation, I think trusted resources are going to be important. Yeah. And I think that any uses of AI that are more background versus forefront are going to be important. So what I'm saying, that we were just at the air show.
Yeah.
And what I saw at that AI show was, again, a lot of prompt engine and not a lot of really unique uses of AI.
Yeah.
So there's work to be done.
Yeah. I've heard it likened also to more like deeper tech, like electricity or the internet.
Yes.
And it took a little while for those of us who remember the 90s, you know, like you knew something was coming, but the dial-up speeds were so slow and the adoption was so slow that it wasn't moving as fast. Now on the consumer side, it seems like stuff's moving
super quick,
incredibly fast.
Yeah.
But then for an enterprise, because I think of districts almost as like a small business, or a medium-sized business, like how fast can they even move?
Well, actually, I have seen some fast movement.
Yeah.
But I think about machine learning and, you know, folks like Carnegie Learning from back in the day have been using kind of AI forever.
Right.
And so I just think that we have to be a little bit more thoughtful about where we go with AI.
Yeah.
So the prompt engine is easy.
Yeah.
But doing more unique things.
It's getting back to that point about like, what's the actual pain point? What's the problem to the user?
Absolutely.
And what are the must-have features that AI is going to give us that'll be better than they would have gotten otherwise?
Yeah.
It does seem like if done well, it could be gap narrowing.
Absolutely.
But if left alone, it might be gap widening.
Yes. Well, yes. I think for folks who already have lots of access and things, if you just meet their need, again, it'll be gap widening. But I think with things that allow more kids to have more personalized attention, I do think that you have to have agency. Or you have to have teachers that are caring and build authentic relationships. But I think tools like this help because they allow teachers to meet kids where they are.
It's almost like the AIs make it easier for humans to have quality time with each other.
Yes.
Best case scenario. So we'll see where it comes. I'm talking to Alvin Crawford here. We're live and in person in San Diego at the ASU+GSV Summit. As we're wrapping up here, any takeaways from the summit or anything you want to leave our listeners with?
Well, what I'll say is that there are a lot of bright minds trying to solve big problems. We're at a time that Linda McMahon is speaking here. We're at a time where lots happening in education and lots of changes. But what I see that's positive is that there are a lot of administrators that are keeping their eye on the ball and say, regardless of what goes on, we've got to make sure that we can help kids be successful. And that's a good takeaway.
Stay optimistic, stay frisky out there. Alvin Crawford, thank you so much for joining me on
Thanks
today.
for having me.
And for our listeners, hopefully you enjoyed a little taste of what's happening live here in San Diego. This is Trending in Ed. We'll be back again soon.